is well known for its diversity. Diversity in its scenery, recreation, art, and cuisine. I'm Katrina Cotton, and welcome to Indie Corner BC, where we search out and showcase inspiring stories from seemingly average BC residents who have struck out on their own to create their own destiny and success. Join us on this special edition of Indie Corner BC. As usual, we'll take you on a cultural and scenic tour of our beautiful city here in Vancouver. In this episode, we decided to turn the cameras around and point them on ourselves to give you, our viewers, a behind-the-scenes look of what our cast and crew do. I mean, we definitely check all the boxes. Seemingly average BC residents? Check. Working to realize our hopes and dreams, which is to produce TV shows and films? Check. While assisting and attempting to make a difference for our small businesses in our community? Check. Now, our prior episodes always started on a corner, thus the name Indie Corner BC. So, for continuity's sake, I'm standing in East Vancouver on the corner of Ancaster and Elliott, near the home office of 3dmedia.ca.
My name is Henry Prasad, part of 3D Media, director of photography, cinematographer, editor, whatever we do. We're a two-man show, so we really just kind of do everything, which is what we do.
My name is Dean Barnes, one of the partners of 3dmedia.ca. I am the scriptwriter and, for the most part, the editor. For the bigger projects, I do much of the directing, though Henry does have a fair amount of directorial input while on set. And of course, we share the roles of producer, location manager. Like Henry said, we kind of do everything at the moment. So how 3D Media started was, I was in the middle of moving from Vancouver to the Cayman Islands, where my wife wanted to live. And right in the middle of all that, COVID hit. I had to come back to Canada because I didn't have a work permit there. They locked the island down. I got a repatriating flight back to Vancouver, and I had to quarantine for 14 days. And during that time, I figured out that my consulting business was basically gone because of all the shutdowns. And I found out that my financial job, which was teaching classes in trading, trading stocks, options, futures, and things like that, was also gone. So during that 14-day stint, I had to figure out what to do. And one of my clients, which was Umbria Coffee, they really needed an educator. I was an educator, but they couldn't do any classes anymore. So I came up with the idea and pitched the idea that we just do it online. And that's when I called Henry, who used to be my partner in a production company 30 years ago called In Motion Productions, which we were the first official photographers for the Vancouver Sun Run. I said, do you still got all your equipment? He says, I bought a bunch of new equipment. I said, you want to do this project with me? And he went, let's do it. And that was it.
Dean contacted me and said, hey, I got a problem. Maybe we can solve it together. I want to start doing some more training videos. You got the camera experience, but I got the material. It's already written. The classes aren't happening anymore, so we decided to collaborate and do one video, just one simple coffee video that turned out to 36 episodes and one of the #1 sellers online right now.
And we put it on one of the larger platforms worldwide, Udemy, and it became a bestseller within the first 3 to 4 weeks. So we kind of knew we were onto something, the quality of our work, the quality of our scripts, the quality of the footage we shoot, and the editing.
So it was pretty exciting, and then we found how much we loved doing this work. When we started 3D Media, there was a couple of things. We both have strengths in different aspects of the media industry, but we both had the passion for media and portraying our story. I've always been a storyteller with my photographs, and Dean's always been a storyteller with his writing, so it was kind of like a good collaboration. We wanted to give local businesses who are struggling. We both have had businesses in this province. It's so hard for businesses to make way. Government restrictions, price hikes, transportation, deliveries, all these things just knock little businesses down, and then COVID comes along.
If they've survived all those things, tell other businesses how to navigate these kinds of situations. We did a couple of commercials, and so it's just kind of gone from there. So this was one of our first projects just after shooting the barista course.
So during the pandemic, after months of government-imposed business closures, we heard that Union Salon was about to reopen and pitched them on an idea to promote their reopening, calling it Reunion.
Despite being one of my first editing gigs, Anthony had said that his dad, who was a film guy, he thought that it was impressive because of the quality of footage and how tight the editing was.
During the sort of reboot of Reunion, trying to figure out exactly how we were able to come back to work in the safest way possible, what we've done is researched reopenings around the world.
And highlighted the COVID-friendly renovations they had implemented during the shutdown.
How important hope is. It's hard for me to not get a little emotional about that. I just wanted to make sure people were coming in with a little hope. That was what it was for me, is I was hopeful. And I think that triggers down to my staff. They see it, you know.
After a couple of weeks of editing, I approached Henry about finishing off with an elated customer. After batting some ideas back and forth, we came up with the Lady in Red.
We took about 20 shots at 9 different angles. We loved the final result. It gave us the ending that we really wanted.
So that's kind of where 3D Media started. It was actually born out of the pandemic. Our whole thing back then was really to try to help small businesses who were struggling and trying to adapt to more of an online type of an environment to stay afloat during the shutdowns. We wanted to serve them. I met Henry back in 1987, 88, and yeah, the way that worked was I'd been working for Black's Photo Corporation for a while, and I always wanted to become a professional diver and travel the world and live in the tropics, and that was my plan. So I took a little time off from the job and went to a professional dive course, and when that course was finished and I graduated, I came back to what I thought was a full-time job, and they said, no, we can only hire you part-time because this guy named Henry took your place. And I said, what? Who is this Henry guy?
But it all started back years ago. I got my first job in this industry as a camera salesperson at a local camera shop, and I wanted to learn about cameras because I was interested in photography. I took the place of somebody that was supposed to be there, and it was funny because all I can hear about from the staff there was, oh, Dean did this, and Dean does this, and Dean's going here, and oh, Dean's going scuba diving. I'm like, this guy's not even here, but he's a legend. And finally, Dean shows up one day, and I guess he's kind of upset because I'm working in his position where he's supposed to be, but you're gone for 6 months, dude. You weren't around.
So the first shift that I got to work with him, I wanted to hate him, but we hit it off, and next thing you know, I find out he's a professional DJ, and he starts showing me all the things that go into being a DJ. I started teaching him how to scuba dive. Next thing you know, we're going off onto trips. We're diving in the Rockies, we're diving out in the West Coast, we're diving in the Gulf Islands.
So we ended up becoming really good friends because I was kind of excited with where he's been and what he's been doing. And I come from a very South American conservative family. And one day we decided that we're gonna go skydiving. And I didn't tell my parents I was going skydiving, and I slept in. And I think I kind of slept in because I was kind of scared to go the next day. But Dean knocks on my door. My dad answers the door. Says, hey, where's Henry? We're going skydiving today. And I get my mom coming downstairs. You're doing what? You're gonna go jump out of a plane? So anyways, I took off, and that was it. That was the end. We ended up jumping out of a plane together and skydiving and doing all these really crazy things and scuba diving and traveling the world.
A few months later, decided, hey, why don't we just move to Vancouver? He moved to Vancouver and lived with him for a couple of years there, which was interesting, a lot of fun. 3 dive instructors and Henry all living in this house. And then out of the blue, he got an interview with Club Med, and he went down to Seattle for an interview. Henry came home and said, I got a job, I'm leaving in a week. They need dive instructors, so you should call them. So I did. That was about maybe 4 or 5 days after Henry left.
My travel took me to Cancun, Mexico.
And they hired me on the spot, and I ended up working with Henry in Cancun. So Henry and I have been through a lot. He moved to the Arctic Circle shortly after his stint in Cancun.
And then it took me to the North Pole, to the Arctic, which was quite incredible.
He did get me some work up there teaching diving, if you can believe it. I taught one of the first recreational dive courses in the Arctic. And that's where I would do crazy things with Henry, like we had a jet ski and a boat up there, and we go water skiing around the icebergs. People from the distant early warning system would come down and shake their heads thinking we were crazy. We did a bunch of diving up there on some of the wrecks, wreck of the Maud, which is an Amundsen ship. We went to another wreck down there that was a C-130 that fell through the ice.
One of my reasons I went up there originally was to go with all my camera gear and take pictures of the local people, the scenery, and that 7 days of travel turned into 8 years.
We've had a lot of adventures together. He came down and visited me in Sonora, Mexico, when I got a job down there. And yeah, I tried to get him a couple of jobs, but he kept turning them down because he had so many projects going on in the Arctic. I got him one in Honduras, and I couldn't believe it. He'd rather be in minus 80-degree weather than plus 25, 30-degree weather. But hey, you know, he's an intense guy, and that's I think that's why we get along. We both do what we do.
And doing construction work. On the weekends, I had a photo studio taking portraiture of all the local people, which was kind of a neat thing. But I've had my hands in the photography industry for over 35 years now. And the biggest thing that happened in the industry was film to digital. I studied radio and television arts, where we used to do hours and hours of film editing, which was real film. And the way we edited it back then was to cut the tape and tape it together with clear tape. So we would cut a chunk out and edit it that way, and everything's digital now. So it was a big thing and a very exciting industry to get into.
Okay, so some of the projects that we've already done and we did prior to doing Indie Corner, and they were successful. We started the Barista program, then we went on to Union. We did a commercial for them and a documentary for their website, which was a huge hit. Shortly after that, we did a pitch video, which was my first dramatic script that I wrote and the first dramatic style film that Henry and I actually got to make. And that one was actually a lot of fun. And we had quite a sizable cast for that one. And it was called the HST, one of our better results, one of our better projects. And everybody who was involved in it was really happy with what we shot. So HST was a big one. And then we've done some little things like some commercials, a realtor commercial. We're going to do several more for the realtor. And then we got a few other things that are kind of on the slate to our own projects, a couple of educational projects. We did such a great job with the first educational project. We're looking at expanding into a couple other industries, and we're talking to some professionals right now about maybe taking that and making it a bigger thing. So education is one that isn't as sexy, but is actually something that we're good at. And I think it's something that could be very good for the company in terms of looking forward and revenue and things like that. So that's kind of what 3D Media is about. That's kind of how we got started. And then we found this TELUS grant that we applied for and we got.
That's how Indie Corner BC started. This is our episode 6 of Indie Corner BC. And this is a show that was sanctioned through StoryHive, through TELUS.
So when we joined this TELUS program for StoryHive, they not only offer you a grant to pay for some of your expenses, but they offer you mentorship. They have these workshops that they run online leading up to your videos, your films. We have learned a few things through them, and we're always up for learning. And this is the kind of industry where the technology is moving so fast that you're never going to be caught up. So you always have to be keeping up and reading and watching videos on all the things that are changing in the industry.
And TELUS surprised us with their type of funding, their commitment to education, and their commitment to getting the word of individual creators to the public. So they've created StoryHive, which you can view on TELUS Optic TV, which I'm hoping that other media outlets start doing, but they don't stifle our creativity, which is one reason Dean and I are involved with TELUS, is that we write something and we submit it and they choose it through a group of peers and they say, yeah, we're gonna let these guys go. So we've had the opportunity with this show that could feature struggling businesses and keep it interesting, and we get to use our creativity and our art to come up with locations, great visuals, sound effects, all these types of things.
And it's very satisfying work.
My name is Katrina Cotton. I am an actress, a model, and also a voiceover artist. And of course, I am a host on this wonderful TV show called Indie Corner BC. Welcome to Mellow Patisserie, located on 8th and Main.
We were fortunate to find Katrina. And one of the things when I contacted Katrina, she said that she wanted to do is she wanted to host her own show, which I was like, light bulb went off.
In terms of how we found her, we put an ad online, and when we met her, Henry had already given me the rundown on their phone conversation.
And I had over 25 applicants that were good applicants, but everyone said that they can do it as just a job, where Katrina was the only one that said to me and portrayed that it was a passion, that she wanted to have her own show and host her own show. And when she explained it to me, it was exactly what Dean and I envisioned, is someone that can take a show, carry it, or make it their own. And that's what led us to getting our coffee interview with her.
And so we met her at a cafe. And from everyone we know who's seen the episode, they all comment on how good it was that we brought her on board and that we have her as the person in front of the camera.
And once we saw the passion in her eyes, we looked at, Dean and I got into the car after we left. It was like, she's gonna make us look good.
So before I got involved with 3D media, I was doing, little gigs here and there, and I was really trying to aim to actually get myself put on to a TV show as a host. There was an ad I saw online and I decided to give it a shot. I met with Henry and Dean at one of my local cafes, and they actually brought the pilot to me, and it really interested me, and the vibes were great between them and they wanted to work with me. So I've had the pleasure, the opportunity, and I've been so blessed to be on Indie Corner as their main host.
Yeah, we were impressed with how fast you learned the script for our initial episode and how it came across.
The first episode we ever shot, which was the Vancouver coffee bean scene. And that was one of my favorite episodes because I actually got to work with Dean and Henry for the first time and see how they work. And it was a two-man crew, and that blew my mind. In regards to the amount of work and the script-wise, it was nothing like no other. These guys really try to understand how I work so that I wasn't uncomfortable in front of the camera.
Every time I look and I'm editing, I look at that image or I look at the dialogue that's coming out of her and where I'm like, wow, she does make us look good. I don't know.
My all-time overall impression has been absolutely professional. These guys are like three peas in a pod. They work so great together. The way that you see the production and the final episodes when they come out, you would believe that an army of 20 people actually produced it when it was actually 3 dudes, and of course myself in front of the camera.
The process starts with an idea, either from us or from a client. We'll bat a few ideas back and forth until we come to something that we like, or something that excites us. From there, Dean takes the idea we come up with, and he does his thing to build the script. Because he's a great storyteller. And that's what one thing I really noticed is Dean will tell you stories and play the characters, and it's like you're there because you're hearing the voices of these characters.
Dean's amazing. He's got a great mind. He's a good director and he can write an amazing script. I love taking the time to understand my scripts, understand who we're actually doing the story on, the storytelling, interviewing these companies. Dean, he's very intelligent and wise and he knows exactly what he's talking about.
I do a lot of research when I'm writing my scripts. And so I research probably for at least a couple of days before I really start writing the script itself. I just keep writing ideas down. I take those ideas and that research and I do two things with them. One is to create the topics we would like our interview subject to cover. And second, to create Katrina's presenter script. Then I gotta form how we're going to present it. Then I send the script to Henry to see if we are on the same page, which most of the times we are. If he has any concerns or any different ideas, then we knock those back and forth until we come up with a consensus. And then I work to make necessary changes and polishes to the script. And there are so many times where you start a script and you work for about 2 hours on it, you read through it and you go, this is crap. And then you just delete and you start over again. So there's a bit of a process and sometimes you get that writer's block. That makes me nuts. It's really tough. Once the script is complete and Henry and I are happy, I send the script to Katrina for her so that she can become familiar with it and begin to rehearse.
So when the script is finalized, my role as DOP starts.
So as you know, there are 3 musketeers, and the second musketeer is, we can't forget, is Henry. And the one thing I love about Henry is he's really great behind the camera. He's got that perfect eye. And when I say that is he's got the detail on where you could be standing or the location, the colors that you're wearing.
That's very crazy.
Where do you put the batteries in?
Yeah, where do you plug that thing in?
Plug what thing in?
That jacket.
The lights and stuff,
So-
they work on the...
He just has that vision of what he wants and he delivers. Like, he's absolutely amazing. And when I first met Henry, I honestly felt like I've met Henry years ago in my past life, or we knew each other from before, because when I first had met him, we didn't feel like strangers. And that's crazy because when I had asked him, he kind of had a similar thought and we work really, really good together.
As DOP, I decide on what locations would be suitable for the subject that we're covering. With each location, I start a separate shot list and decide on what equipment is needed. I may use video, stills, GoPro, drone footage for establishing shots, etc.
We typically split the producer duties: scheduling, interviews, Katrina's intros and extras, arranging supporting B-roll footage, getting permissions and releases signed, that kind of thing.
Hey Caleb, just checking in with you to see if you came up with an idea of what you want to make for an animation. Once we have the dates confirmed on shooting the interview, I go through and ensure all the equipment is ready, the batteries are charged up, and I have enough video cards for the day. I'll figure out the time of day and figure out what we need for lighting, check with the weather, and see if we're going to have rain or sunshine. All of this has to be coordinated with our talents and our crew.
Once we get on set and are set up, Henry and Serge check the lighting and the sound while I start working to prepare Katrina if we are shooting, say, like an intro or an extra.
Working to realize our hopes and dreams, which is to produce TV shows and films.
Why don't we see it?
Well,
Or the principal subject of our episodes.
but my impression has been great. I love working with them. They are such a great team to work with, a family, and we're really tight when we come up with ideas and topics on what we want to talk about, or stories we want to hear, or companies that we want to interview.
After the day of shooting, the real creative work begins. The cards are loaded into the appropriate files.
Since Henry has the best eye for things like light and color, I let him do most of the white balancing and the color correcting.
We also learned the hard way that instead of color correcting and adjusting sound files individually, we now correct all of the usable footage and adjust sound right at the beginning using a batch edit system. Once that's complete, Dean starts the tedious task of sifting through all the footage. Most of the time it takes about a week or two before Dean has a timeline laid out.
Henry and I both do editing, but lately I've been doing a little bit more just because he's in the middle of a construction project with his house. But I think our best work is when we're collaborating. We're just back and forth with ideas, especially in the editing room. And I'll put some together and he'll say, what if we do this? And I go, that's a really great idea. And then I'll say, and if we add that, and then next thing you know, it becomes something that is better than we originally envisioned.
Because I can't do what I do without him. And in turn, I don't think he can do without me. So together, the collaboration is incredible.
And that's one of the funnest things about being part of 3D Media is that when you come up with an idea and it comes out better than you thought, those are really kind of inspiring moments, things that make you want to do more.
Even the submissions to StoryHive's platform are a collaborative effort. While Dean writes up the synopsis and loglines, I'm creating the thumbnails and box art as per the upload requirements. And then that's it. Once it's in the can, we move on to the next project. Have a drink and empty bottles of booze. We write, we film, and we are very excited to be able to have an outlet for our work. And we're hoping to do a lot more work with TELUS.
With Dean and Henry for 3D Media, and then of course Sergio coming on board on our second episode, they are so personable, they're just like family. And they want to make sure that if you're ready to film, they want you to be 1000% ready because it comes out more organically and more genuine to the camera and to our audiences. So if I could really pick, I would love for a smaller crew. Because it's easier to work with, easier to communicate, and of course it works out for everyone's schedule as well.
When I met Katrina, I found out how quick and professional she was and is. And I also found out that she's been in very big productions.
There's a big difference with me working on a larger production compared to working on a smaller production. I've worked on very, very large productions. Just recently, I did an Olive Garden commercial and there was like 40 plus people on set.
So I find that for her to choose to work with us is very impressive. Our show is such a small production, small show, but it's really cool that she wants to work with us and we're very honored to work with her.
One of the things that Katrina does is she actually makes the words sound better than it even sounded in my head. So for us, I think it's an advantage to have somebody who can do that.
I always kind of asked her, you know, hey, so what do you do now? Oh, I just finished a commercial. Oh, really? So was it a big commercial? Then I find out that it's a big commercial, lots of people, lots of production, 12-hour day. And I'm thinking, what can I do in a 12-hour day that would take so long for a 30-second commercial? We're filming a 34-minute show and we really try to just knock things off, but it'll take 12 hours to do a 30-second commercial, which blows my mind. It's really interesting to see someone come to set and be professional.
Hi, I'm Sergio Ferreira. I am the sound technician for 3D Media.
Sergio, the newest member to the team. He's like a big brother to me.
Serge is our sound man, and he has stepped up in a time of need. We needed somebody to do our sound because one of our first episodes, we had a really, really big mic glitch.
Ran into a bit of difficulty and asked me to come in with a little training. I was able to pick up fairly quickly and added a level of expertise to their company, as we are now.
And we started the second episode, we started getting Serge to help us.
Tina, nice to meet you. Yes, nice to meet you. I loved you in episode 1 wearing one of our rompers.
And Serge trained up really quick, has a background in some type of some sound.
I've always dabbled in audio, music, and sound in various venues, whether it be for school dances or working with my church.
So we asked him, and he had the interest in it, and that's all we ask for, is somebody to have an interest in what we're doing. And he took over the sound, and it's been incredible. And when he comes to set, he is so silent. It's really weird for a sound guy to be silent.
Serge, yeah, he quietly just does his thing. Doesn't get too involved in the backs and forths.
So Sergio is the third musketeer of the group, and he's more of the silent, more sane one, which is amazing.
So we never know if he's in trouble. So all I can see is his body language, and he's squirming around, he's looking up, he's looking down, he's in his bag, he's like looking over his shoulders. I'm like, what's the matter? No power. But he keeps it all to himself, which is great until he starts to sweat. So I sometimes look over often to see when I see him calm and I know everything's working, but when he's twitching and looking around and I know that there's no batteries or something's happened, but he doesn't want to let us know because he doesn't want to stress us out, which is kind of cool.
The scripts are great. You know, Dean pumps them out very quickly. They're researched, they're typed real quick. And of course, you know, he's always thinking on the fly, always thinking on the go. Once I get the scripts, they're great. I memorize them, and then, except for those typos.
Wait, what? Typos? She said typos? What typos?
Or occasional run-on sentence.
And what run-on sentences? What?
But otherwise, they're great.
All right. Okay. Maybe one or two. But, well, I guess I can talk about Katrina now. I mentioned that she does make my words sound better than they sound in my head. She's actually really good at it. And one of the things I love is the fact that she can memorize quite large sections of her script in a fairly short period of time. That said, occasionally she says things and half the time I'm realizing she's not exactly sure what the sentence means, but she says it really well.
And with his wordage, that he wants it to come out very particular. So sometimes for me, if I'm not used to that type of wordage, I can, you know, lose track on it. Example,
I have a scene for our episode 4 with the manufacturer, Chloe, and she did it maybe 4 or 5 times, but the line was something to the effect of, Chloe had built this beautiful business, but when the pandemic hit, they had to pivot and shift, and they did so by doing whatever they did. And the way she would come across with the line was,
and they did so, and they did so, and they did so.
4th time she did that, I had to say to her, and did so, don't emphasize so. No one's arguing with you, Katrina. It's not, they did so, they did not. They did so, it's more like, and they did so by being light on their feet and being able to pivot.
No,
so,
I forgot.
Yeah.
And they did so while simultaneously providing.
I gotta admire somebody who, even if she's not really sure what it says, she can actually put it out there in a way that is amazing. Like, she's really a professional presenter.
But I do realize how she is her own diva in her own world, where we start at 8, but by the time she shows up, it's 9 o'clock. I guess it's normal for a star to show up whenever they want to show up. But the great part is she has her own driver. Dean picks her up and drops her off.
I have to say, you know, I pick her up for most of the days we shoot. And other than her being maybe 20 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes late while I'm sitting down in the car, yeah, I got no complaints.
So it's awesome. And then she always comes with food and sandwiches for herself. So that's okay. As long as she's happy and fed, that makes me happy. So we'll do an hour of production and then she'll eat again. That's awesome. So I love that about her, and you know what? She knows what she wants, and we want her on our set.
We have a lot of fun giving each other digs, but we're really happy with how we've put everything together with her.
So when I see Dean working with Katrina, because Dean and I have had a lot of history. We bark at each other, we do our own thing, we get stubborn, whatever, but we kind of really appreciate our creative lines. And I know sometimes I kind of sneak in there trying to, while they're talking, I kind of just, dance around trying to cut in because I want to respect their time. I don't want to just jump in there. And so I'll just kind of stand back for a while and wait. And when they're available, I'll just kind of sneak in there and, hey, you guys ready? I got an idea. And maybe they listen, maybe they don't. But, that's the way I am around set.
Henry's really good behind the camera. Other than, there has been times where maybe Dean is trying to tell me a direction on how he wants the scene to go. And Henry will have this bright idea and interrupt Dean and Dean will look at Henry and in his New York or Boston accent, whatever he likes to call it, will say, hey, I'm talking over here. And you just have to laugh at that. But you know what? I love how they both come together because they have the same vision, and when the scene comes out, it's absolutely magical. Everything
does run pretty smooth for us. We're a pretty tight organization. Every tight organization has its, its little snafus. Katrina was not wrong when she talked about how Henry is so focused on what he's doing behind the camera. It's almost a regular that I'm in the middle of having a discussion with our principal, and he just comes pushing right through and, okay, this is what I need. And I'm like, hey, I am talking over here. I think that's New York. I don't think that's Boston.
He does an incredible New York accent.
Just saying. But no, Henry and I, we have moments where there's some tension, but those are some of the best projects we ever have, where if we don't agree on how it should be done, but we're very good at working through to figure out exactly what we need to get to make that look better. And I think that is probably one of our strengths. Okay, so with any business, you're going to have times where things just go amazing and times where things are maybe a bit more of a struggle. I think timing, being one of the producers and trying to get people who are very busy. Henry is an incredibly busy guy. Everybody says he's got too much on his plate, but somehow he always gets through it all. And Katrina, she's got quite a few things going on aside from our project. And Serge has got his stuff going on. So trying to get everybody scheduled where everyone's available to make the shots that we want can be a bit of a grind, but kind of like herding cats. But typically we'll be able to figure it out. But that's always, like, for the production side of things, I think scheduling is probably one of the bigger challenges.
So yeah, there has been some struggle. Of course, working with any production company, you're gonna have some hiccups. When it comes to struggles, sometimes it could be finding the right location, making sure we got the right look.
Other struggles is trying to remember all the new things with media and technology. Always consistently learning. We're trying to educate ourselves. We're trying to read, keep up with some of these great media and content creators that are out there shooting with their phones simply enough.
But other struggles for the company, it's just keeping the workflow going. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
And the struggle, you always get past the struggles, but for us here at Indie Corner BC, a struggle means a challenge and we always get through it.
Organization is key. And if you don't know how to organize, there are tons of YouTube videos and courses online that you can take that will help you figure that stuff out. That's what I had to do.
So know the temperatures of the sun. From the time the sun rises, from the time the sun sets, there's all different temperatures, which gives different colors to your face, your outfits. And the main idea is to make your face colors the same. So high noon is 5,000 degrees Kelvin. Know that, and you can go work your way backwards. So when you operate your cameras, make sure you color balance, get everything in the camera right the first time, and make sure that you put your light at a natural side of the face to imitate the sun. Okay, for instance, in this room we have light coming in over here, and I have a light to the left. I'm not going to put a light to the right. It just kind of messes up people, and it doesn't make it look natural. So know your lighting, know your equipment. Make sure that you read about your equipment. Don't overkill. At the end of the day, you're getting an image into the camera. That's all you need. And make sure the sound is clean and matches the lip movement. That's one of the big things. All right, so just a few tips. And if you can read, you can watch videos, these are all things that are going to help you.
My hopes for this show is I really hope it gets picked up by a national network and it gets streamed all over Canada and the United States. That would be amazing.
And if somebody wants to purchase it, if TELUS wants maybe more episodes, or somebody else comes along, say maybe a tourist association, a restaurant association, a hotel association, and they want Indie Corner or an Indie Corner style show custom to what they need to promote their association or their business, that's something that we'd be very interested in pursuing. So that's probably something we will look at once we get done all this. That's probably one of the personal struggles. In terms of the business, we just want to make sure that we keep that cash flow going and keep our clients happy. And we are looking to maybe add 1 or 2 more corporate clients, and that's always a nice way to go. And then in between, you can always work on your individual projects, your indie projects as well. We haven't been able to take too much more on with all the things we got going on at the moment, but we have a couple of projects lined up right after we're finished with Indie Corner.
I think that our future with 3D media is going to be bright with all the different avenues of education that we're moving into and technology.
There you have it. Now you've seen some of the efforts that go into producing an episode of Indie Corner BC. Most would agree that that is considered a lot of work for a full-size production team. But just a couple of people running every detail, the results are pretty impressive. Obviously a labor of love for these content creators. And a quick note to add about today's content, our portrayal of our process and how we are behind the scenes is pretty spot on. Well, except for the fact that I'm always running late and my beloved sandwiches, although I really do love food. That was embellished. But the others, like the typos, run-on sentences, Henry's interruptions, are spot on. After gushing all over each other, we decided to add some fun to the show by adding some affectionate digs into the episode. Bottom line, we love working with each other as much as we love bringing you, our viewers, inspiring stories from courageous BC residents who reach for the brass ring to make their hopes and dreams a reality. Now, let's take a look at my closing scene. We hope you enjoyed this special edition with yet some more scenic views of Vancouver, as well as getting to know our cast and crew of Indie Corner BC. We look forward to seeing you next time, but until then, enjoy the sights, the sounds, the tastes, and all the opportunities Vancouver has to offer.